This is the Josh Lynott Project. Thank you so much for lending me your time and your attention. I truly believe they're the two most valuable assets in the world, so not for a single moment do I take it for granted that I have both of yours here right now. The goal of this podcast is to encourage you to slow down, take more risk, go after what you love, and appreciate the one percenters. The one percenters, as I define them, are the small, unexpected moments within your day. So, if you were to leave this podcast right here, right now, I hope you've already got one tangible takeaway, and that is to look for the little things in each and every day. I truly believe if you notice those things, you'll infinitely change your life for the better. This podcast is sponsored by my book, A Note to the Runners, 42.2 poems dedicated to the runner. On triumph, on losing, on addiction, comparison, or maybe you just want to go for a run purely for the coffee afterwards. Whether you want to get into poetry, this is a great vehicle for it. Maybe you need a gift for someone. I've written it. So there's not that many left, especially now because 100 are floating in the ether in my lost baggage somewhere in the world. This podcast is also sponsored by my mentorship program. If you'd like to work with me one-on-one to develop your ability to tell stories, to create a personal brand, to approach brands, pitch brands, I'd love to work with you. So you can work with me for 3 months or 6 months, and you can apply via the link in the show notes. And finally, if you'd like to support me, you can buy me a coffee. My coffee order is a long black. In the afternoons, it's a cortado. Some people buy 1, 2, 3, or 4 coffees. But if you're on the other side of the world and you'd really love to have a chat, but a flight's too expensive, buying me a coffee is like kind of close to doing that. Anyway, welcome back to another episode of the Josh Lynott Project. We have a guest on the show today who you'll find out more about very soon. But firstly, we always start with a poem, and this is one I wrote inspired by my mum's flower store. If we were to run like flowers, perhaps we'd bloom like flowers. We'd work with the wind, embrace the rain, move slowly in the sun, and tread lightly as we run. Well, I'm very excited for this podcast. It has been a long time coming. Today's guest, we've had many good chats. We don't chat often, but when we do, they're always great. And we now live in the same city, so this has definitely helped get this going. And I feel very grateful that he has come on the show. But firstly, we're going to introduce him through his poem. Here we go.
Nice. Thanks, dude. For context, my poem is from one of my favourite authors. Her name is Ursula Le Guin. I don't know if you've read any of her books, but she's a must-read.
Must read.
A must-read. So I'll read her poem. It's a bit longer than yours, but I love her style, and this poem kind of resonates with me. Please bring strange things. Please come bringing new things. Let very old things come into your hands. Let what you do not know come into your eyes. Let desert sand harden your feet. Let the arch of your feet be the mountains. Let the paths of your fingertips be your maps, and the ways you get to be the lines on your palms. Let there be deep snow in your inbreathing, and on your outbreath be a shining of ice. May your mouth contain the shapes of strange words. May you smell food cooking you have not yet eaten. May the spring of a foreign river be your navel. May your soul be at the home where there are no houses. Walk carefully, well loved one. Walk mindfully, well loved one. Walk fearlessly, well loved one. Return with us, return to us. Be always coming home.
Man, that was stunning.
She's the bomb.
Wow. When did that poem come into your life?
I only started reading Ursula Le Guin probably like 4 or 5 years ago. She wrote this fantasy series called Earthsea. And as soon as I read her, I think it's 3 or 4 books, this series, I was like just infatuated with her style of writing and just how she kind of saw the world. So I just have always like looked up various things and she was just very prolific writer. So I just had just did a deep dive kind of thing and just handpicked out a few things that I've always liked from her. She's someone I always return to, like, as a writer.
So good. I think that poem and parts of that poem we will come back to later. I just immediately love, like, welcoming old things. I think that is a topic for us in that. But before we go any further, I would like to introduce Ben Clement. I'm going to tell you how I see Ben and why I am excited to have Ben on today. Ben, I observed online firstly before sending a message, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. I think we went for our first coffee. But I was always really inspired by Ben's photography and particularly his colour and his choice of colour, the way he works with colour. And then when we actually caught up for coffee, the way Ben talked about colour, like, really, I was like, damn, this guy goes into a lot of depth. And I feel like any photographer that I've come in contact that knows Ben at some stage has, like, either been obsessed or really inspired by his work. But then Ben also is, like, deeply involved in the running community. He's had a run crew, AM.PM, and has had that for over a decade now. And I think that alone for me is really inspiring, someone who has continuously showed up for himself as a running practice, for others as a community. But then also, if you haven't ever come across AM.PM, I think the intersection of AM.PM's creativity, storytelling, identity, and strength as a community is, like, what sets it apart from so many others, and probably is, like, a reason why it's been around so long. Ben is also a writer. He posts many great thoughts, which you can find on Substack. And I think, like, you also hold this, like, at least for me, this, like, essence of mystery, which potentially is, like, something that you do on purpose. I'm not sure. And yeah, I think I've always been curious about the way that you think and approach things, but it manifests through the way you output to the world. So that is my take on you.
Thanks, dude.
I'd love to hear how you would introduce yourself at this point in your life right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, thanks, dude. I mean, that's very kind, and that's a great observation. I think the thing around looking at colour is it's interesting because I do love, like, looking at colour in my work. I think the overarching thing, and this talks to, like, even just running, is I'm very much in the details and in the weeds of things, and that sounds like it takes a lot of work and a lot of thinking, but it's just the natural way I like to it's my natural impulse, or the natural way, the natural order of things in my personality, I would say. So it's not tiring, it's not hard, it's just the way I see the world. And I would almost maybe use the word detail with, like, nuance as well. So, like, just looking in the gaps, or at least, like, the liminal spaces, like the thing that connects something together. So photographically, yeah, colour is, I think, really important, and it's just, you just start over time. I think you develop, like, an interest or like what I want to see more of or less of, and you're kind of taking and adding away. Like, I think photography is either, like, equally reductive and additive. Like, you're either adding something or you're taking something away. Composition, colour, people, landscape, whatever it may be, you know.
What do you think you lean more towards, additive or subtractive?
Oh, gosh. It's a paradox because it's, like, the same. Like, I might be pulling out, like, subjects so there's less people, but I might be adding more colour or something. So it's like two truths are
I guess
the same.
you can be taking something, but that's adding more space.
Exactly,
So-
yeah. So it's like two truths can be, like, real.
Just that once.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think similarly, like, in the running world, like, I like longevity and I like legacy. So, and I think my history of, like, what I came to learn through music, particularly through, like, punk and hardcore, was was you stuck around and you mucked in and you got your hands dirty and you kept something alive for as long as it could. And that was like the way, like integrity was a huge word growing up in that scene. So naturally finding a love and an interest for running and then having a community of people around that, the same kind of values apply. Like it was always something like you have to give as much as you want to receive out of it. It's the same, you could relate that to training. Like,
absolutely,
you want to run a certain time or you want to have a certain level of fitness or whatever. Like it's going to give you back as much whatever you put in. So I kind of approach all of those things like equally, like the same as I would approach making work, the same as I'd approach writing something to talk about the work or a thought, as I would to coming up with something for the crew. They're just different mediums, but they all stem from like the same set of thinking, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think that your running has ever inspired your photography, or your photography has inspired your approach to running?
Yeah, it's so funny you say this because I was talking about this probably like 2 weeks ago with, do you know Nick Albrook? He's a runner. He plays in the band Pond.
Yeah.
He's in Western Australia, and he's an epic dude, such a legend. Runs a lot, and we were having this chat, and I think in my earlier days of discovering or the earlier journey of running, I was like so massively inspired. My work was like massively inspired by that. Like it's, when you become really almost like drunk on the inspiration, you're just like, oh my gosh, like there's so many things I can do. Like I've just got to get into this as like hard as I can. And over the time, like you kind of not so much mellow out, but maybe like mature in those ideas. And I've always like looked at ideas not from like, yes, from what's in front of me, like from where I'm like part of, but also from other interests, like that book or that author or other interests in life or just things I'm fascinated by. Because I don't love the idea of constantly having a feedback loop of like just this one thing. Like, and maybe I'm only talking to running because I do find running quite challenging creatively because it's very linear.
In terms of like creatively, in terms of your physical expression as a runner or training modality?
Or like making work about running, like
Gotcha.
as a photographer or
I'm interested by this because I feel like because of this like boom in running at the moment, there's been so many like styles that have kind of like come through over the years. But now I feel like in some ways every different style has like existed, and because running is so linear, as you just said, I'm like, where do you take it now?
And that's my conundrum. Like I'm kind of always peeling back the layers, and for years and years I've always said this to myself, and when I've worked with brands and worked on projects, I'm always saying like the same sentence, like let's peel back the layers and see how far down we can go. And it's like pulling on really small threads.
What layer have you got to recently? What's the deepest you've got to?
At the moment, I'm looking at like softness.
Yeah.
And I'm bringing in a lot of like choreography and dance into how I see running. And so for me, it's like looking at like, okay, we have this action of running. Like it's like one foot, next foot. The equation is quite simple when you think about it, compared to if I'm relating it into the world of sport, of like rock climbing, I don't know, tennis. Like these sports are extremely dynamic. Some sports have more of like a subculture like embedded into them. Like rock climbing is to me like very, very similar to skateboarding, for example. So they have like naturally they have all this other stuff around them, whereas running is trying really, really, really hard to do that, but it gets stuck in its own like rigid kind of routine and linearness. So I think it's the same as like your left brain, right brain kind of, like people are trying, and I think people have done incredible jobs of like bringing style and energy and art into running. But I often find, even for myself, there's been some dead ends where I've gone, now I feel like I'm repeating. I need to like, instead of like getting to the ceiling, you almost have to go back down the stairs and then out the door and find another room, like kind of thing. It takes a bit more work, I think, which is cool. I like the challenge, but it does take work.
It takes so much work, which is also like another running metaphor. It's constant work.
Like, yes, it takes work, but it's also quite. There's another side of it that's easy. Like, yes, you can go out and make work around running, but I think that's where the saturation has come in, because there is this accessibility, which is an amazing thing, but then it's kind of fed very quickly as well.
Well, right now I'm trying to look at everything that isn't running, and I know that you have probably done that as well when you talk about the nuance and the details, but I'm just like, well, what is the art that people hang on in their house, and like, is there the smallest thread that I can pull back to like running, for instance? But like when you are looking to, say, bring in dance or seeing running as a dance, where have you had to go to find that inspiration or even come up with that train of thought?
I think for me, as like just like a overarching like idea of life, or how I live my life, is like just being like interested in the world. And it's probably like stems from like growing up. I grew up in a tiny village of like 50 people maybe, kind of thing, and this is pre-internet, so
sounds so nice to be like, I grew up in a village.
Yeah, it does. I mean, honestly, we had a river and we had farms, and we learned to skateboard on the curb, but just our access to the wider world was few and far between, and whatever we did kind of hang on to, this is just school friends and so on and so forth. We like really, really like latched onto it, but there was this kind of like yearning for like what is out there kind of thing. And when you're kind of like starved is probably the wrong word, but just the circumstance you're in where you don't have, what's in front of you is just what's in front of you. And then when I kind of got older and found my way into like music and skateboarding, and then decided to leave New Zealand and move overseas and start traveling, and then your world just expands and you're like, oh my gosh, I now want to absorb so much stuff. And that's obviously through people you meet, and you're kind of like finding yourself and navigating. So I think coming from that and then being like, I don't want to miss out, like not a fear of missing out, but like I'm so interested in the world that why would I hold myself to just one little slither of like just running, for example, or just this one thing. Like I want to like absorb other things or learn from those things, because the more I learn about those other things, then it benefits the stuff that I'm passionate about, for example. Yeah.
Do you think that building a run club or building a style as a photographer, also I forgot to say that Ben also has Good Sport magazine, which has been going for how long?
Almost 10 years as well.
10 years, and now Good Sport Studio. Congratulations on the opening. But do you think to like build either a run crew, a magazine, or a style of photography, you have to exist in a slither? Like even though you don't, like what you were just saying then, it's like you want to absorb so much, but the irony is like to then build something. And this is my bias, because right now I'm like in this running poetry slither.
Yeah, I agree. I think going like further and further into your own niche, whatever you deem that to be, but with passion and care and consideration and like full interest. Like I think you have to kind of like fully dedicate yourself to something, and that could just be like like a slither or a niche within a niche kind of thing. I think, and I'm only saying this because of the current state of what we're in, and this is just like from my corner of the world looking at where things are at. Like I think it's just
I just want to provide context to the state that we're in. I'm going to say is like this very saturated landscape of creative work around running. If you'd add anything to that.
And I think you can relate that to like whatever world you're in. So you could be into football and there could be 1,000 different people making work similar to you kind of thing. I think a lot of these, because of like the state of social media and the internet, I think a lot of things can become saturated very quickly, and there's a whole lot probably to unpack there around like what that world looks like. But I think what's important is I think really like almost like just dedicating yourself so like hard to that niche that it can't be faltered kind of thing. And I think the deeper you kind of go into it, the more
like, you actually open up the world.
Yeah. And I think yes, of course it's important to like apply your thinking or viewpoint into other parts of the world, but it's like they're kind of give and take. Like you might go see like a theatre performance and you might be like, oh, I want to photograph that, or I might want to write about that. But you could also flip it and be like, how do I draw from that and add it into my world? So you're kind of like feeding this kind of thing rather than being like, I'm just going to put myself across all of these things. You kind of, at least for me, if I do that, I get a bit lost. And I'm like, what am I into? I'm just applying myself to like a bunch of different things. And yes, on one side as a photographer, like my style can be applied to various ranges of jobs. And that's really exciting to be able to do. But I always believe like as a photographer, like if you're trying to make work or work with brands, like your personal work has to shine through the first kind of thing. Like you have to make the personal work because that's you kind of thing. Yeah.
That's your character more than anything.
Totally, yeah.
I completely agree with that whole sentiment around like if you go to the opera or the theatre, rather than documenting that, using that for inspiration. And I think that's been like a really big flip for me in the last 18 months was rather than posting photos of a cookbook and then mountaineering and then running, I'm just like, if I go to the mountains, I'll write about running in the mountains. If I'm like at a new restaurant, I'll write about like running and food, and just like it feeds everything now. And even though I'm in a niche and I thought that would close me off from the world, I've actually had more opportunities from the world. It's been a really interesting thing for me to observe the last year.
Yeah, and I think it takes time. Like I think you kind of start wider. Like when I first kind of, discovered, you discover something from the first time and you want to absorb all of it as much as you can. You're kind of like pulling in like from a wider net, and you might start on a surface level. So I think there is like an element of like patience involved and maybe commitment. You kind of have to, and this is speaking from like an artistic point of view, like commit to what you're doing and like dedicate the time to really like ask yourself questions and question there and look around that corner and research that and unpack something further and things like that, rather than just hanging out on the surface, because you'll probably soon find you'll kind of get bored and you might move on to something else, and maybe that's how you want to live. But for me, I want to like keep going kind of thing. And that's kind of where the best work comes out. And I also don't believe like your work is like absolute. Like it's always like I will always put my best foot forward no matter what project I'm working on, but that's coming from the resources and the time and where I'm at currently.
Yeah, it's like
but in
the best for that period of your life on that day.
And it's like you can't really have regrets about it, because if you're thinking about it as like a legacy thing or something you're like dedicating as long as you feel fit to, then you have to think about it as like just these moments, or it builds or it compounds or whatever. And yes, sometimes you might be like, okay, I'm done, I'm ready to like close that chapter and move on, it's ready kind of thing. Or it just will shift and turn and morph and grow and diminish and all sorts of things. It'll just be its thing, is you just have to kind of like feed it this whatever it is, you know.
Just keep it, it's like a sourdough. Just
yeah.
look after the feeder.
It is a bit, it is, yeah.
What chapters have you had to close to get you to where you are now?
Chapters, gosh.
Had to, or maybe they just close naturally?
I think it's probably a bit of both. Like, I think it's an approach to how I'm making work that closes. Like I don't often, for example, I'm not really like going to like a running event, like a marathon, to shoot imagery anymore. Mm-hmm. Like I spend a long time going to events to kind of look at details of how people were running and the types of people were there, and testing out kind of styles and, well, not styles, but testing out like ideas. And I feel like I got to a point where I'm like, I've done enough of that and I don't need to keep feeding that, because now I've kind of banked a lot of thinking and now I'm applying them into like specific projects. So that kind of stuff's closed for sure. And even on like the run crew side of things, like that's become a lot more intimate. Like we used to do like a Tuesday evening run where it was a lot more public and it was like a 5K and whatever. And now it's kind of more like choose your own adventure and rock up in your own way, and it's less prescribed. So there was some of those chapters closed, and it's always like kind of an intuition, gut feeling, but also like an observation of like what's going on in the wider world of our wider world, and being like, and just like listening, like there's a bit of feedback, like what are people wanting and not wanting and stuff like that as well. Yeah.
Couple things in there. Firstly, I love the distinction in the way that you talk about making imagery, but then you often say, and even in conversations that we've had prior, it's like making work. Like that is something that I would never go and say. I'd be like, I've got a job, I'm going to take photos. But I think there's a real like deep intention when you say, I'm going to make work. I kind of just want you to unpack that a bit more, because it's like on the flip side, it's like, what are you doing when you're not making work? Are you
thinking about it?
yeah, but are you like just taking your camera out for like a photo walk, or or is it all work?
I do think of that distinction. Like, I might be like, if I have my camera with me, I might just take an image kind of thing, and there might not be any purpose to that. It's just a reaction or an observation. And then making work for me there's usually more of like a purpose, and this can be personal and commercial. Like I can make work for a client or to respond to a brief or whatever it is, but I can also make work for myself, like a personal project that I've developed. So I think of making work as like developing something that's not just reactionary. I mean, there might be reactive moments within that, but I can go out and take pictures and take photographs, and they're just instinctual and reactive and just an extension of being a photographer. And then there's like making work involves for me a lot more like research and thinking and planning and development of an idea. And sometimes that development is like sitting on it for 2 years. Like at the film I just finished, or I'm finishing at the moment, which is in the edit and kind of sound phase, was an idea I had for 2 years. And only until now I had the right kind of time and resource and people around me to make it. Even though I was like, could have made it 2 years ago, like if I just jumped at it, the idea kind of matured, and I'm so much more happier for it already, and it's not even out kind of thing. So yeah, that's making work.
I love it. Thanks for that. I don't know whether to go into run clubs or keep going further into ideas. I'll go into run clubs, run crews, because inevitably I think it'll probably come back to ideas and our creative look at it. On the theme of articulating an idea, how would you distinguish a run crew different to a run club? And I'm so stoked because you've been in the game so long that I know you can articulate this.
Okay.
Hot take.
So I think at its essence, a run crew is the culture. It's what you think of as a subculture. And I think a club is like a gathering and a service and a collective of people who have an interest in something. Those things can blur for sure, and I think in our current state of running, those things are blurred even more. They've become, in some cases, a bit more interchangeable, and I think it's kind of flattened, not in a bad way, but I still think the essence of a crew is that kind of subculture, that full-on integrity to what you believe and care about, and it's looking at things at a completely different perspective for a type of person that is searching for that too. Whereas, and it always comes across as one's good and one's bad, but it's totally not. When we first started with AM.PM, there was nothing in Australia whatsoever. There was traditional clubs who do athletics and cross country and so on and so forth. Not a single anything else, not like modern day kind of thing. And we were very inspired by the original crews, Run Dem Crew, Bridge Runners, Pata, Berlin Braves, so on and so forth, the 6 or 7 that were been around for 5 years. And when you learn about that and you go, oh my gosh, that we can have a home for our groups of our peers, our friends, because we see the world the same way. It's like when you find skateboarding for the first time, you're like, I feel seen. I've got a home to hang out in and express myself, and it's not the norm. It's different from what everyone else is doing and the wider world around me. But then I guess as things grew, I remember early on we were like, there should be more clubs or more crews around in Australia. And then finally some people started making some other communities. But I think it's over time it's become more people have, it's almost a bit geographical now, because we live over here, we can get people in this area to live. And I'm a bit worried that some people I don't know what their purpose is, apart from just meeting up kind of thing. And I think with a crew, there's a purpose it's not written in a designed font or a caption, it's like a felt thing. I think it's really tricky explanation because...
I get it. Yeah. It's so nuanced though. And when I was first listening to your explanation, I'm like, well, is it even possible for a crew to exist now? And I was like, well, the way you've defined it is by, in some ways, having this subculture. And then the geographical point is really interesting because just because you live here doesn't mean you at all have the same interest. There's a lot of people in this suburb that probably don't give a shit about poetry.
I've got a better analogy, I think.
Yeah.
So I guess from a crew point of view, and this is what we're talking about with ideas before, you're like absorbing the world through all these other interests. And from my perspective, it's like music, it's clubbing, it's like art, it's design, it's photography. It's all of these like things that kind of make artists who they are, whether you're an artist or you're someone who are just interested and infatuated with those types of things in the world, they kind of how you see or are lit up by. And then a club is like born from running, if that makes sense. It's like a crew, the running comes secondary, and a club, the running comes first.
Yeah.
And they're both correct, and they both have their own like pros and cons. I just think they see the world differently. Yeah.
For sure. And different use cases
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
How do you go either nourishing or kind of protecting the crew? Because it's like you all evolve as humans. There's going to be people that like drop in and out of these interests. Like I imagine some people would drop out of a clubbing phase or come into it, or as through your work and your life, you're going to absorb different types of art. I have like further questions, but curious how you
I think
do that.
There's two parts to this for me. In the early days, it wasn't really about protecting. It was about just making noise and being like, this is who we are and this is what we're about, and jump on board and come along for the ride kind of thing, because nothing existed. So there was like this space of just like, let's go kind of thing. And now as things have saturated or grown, or brands have gone, oh, wait a minute, like let's jump on board to this, and there's all these opportunities around, then it has kind of gone into protecting. And I think for me, it's always like the values, like upholding kind of what we're about, but also like mostly like letting people like be themselves and not containing people, or not letting people be expressive. And that can be whether they're challenging something or being involved in something or questioning something or saying yes or saying no, whatever it may be, but actually like letting people or allowing people to like have that space to like be themselves. And that kind of changed, like some of those changes came in probably in around COVID, I reckon. We were like, let's not do these Tuesdays. They're not really serving us anymore. We're not interested in that way of running. Like, let's meet at the track. It's a base. Let's let people decide what they want to do. And this is not like, we're not sitting here writing these notes down. It's just like kind of happens over time.
It's a dialogue, right?
Yeah. And it's like, do a session, go for a jog. Well, okay, let's have coffee. Like, okay, well, what's cool here? People are more like, let's all just hang out afterwards. Like, and you're just kind of catching the wave of what people are responding to it and not even asking for, but just naturally doing. And then it's going, okay, well, this feels special. So if it feels special, let's nurture that and like protect that, because we don't want that feeling to go away. And what kills special things, like, and at least for us, from our value point of view, when things become too saturated or too branded or too often or too like high energy or whatever it is, like it's kind of like responding to that and being like, okay, well, let's protect that. And one thing that particularly we did with AM.PM is every year, or at least try to every year, is like kind of a workshop for the whole crew to come together, re-establish or reconnect with the values, and do kind of like a goals kind of workshop and be like, what's working, what's not working, what do we want to work towards as individuals and as a collective. And it just helps people to be like, have a voice and to say like, well, I want to do this for myself, but I also want to involve myself here, because it can't really just be led by like one or two or three people. It has to have, if you're a community, it has to be like...
I was just about to say that. I was like really been interested in kind of the saturation of the use in the word community. But a true community is a like group dialogue. Like as a visual, I see it as like a spider web. It can't just be like one or two or three voices just telling. Like
Exactly.
It's not a community, which I think like a lot of run clubs or brands, whatever in the world now, just like use the word community. But if it's just coming directionally one way, it's not actually a community.
Yeah, you might have a nice time at something like this. You might go there because your friends are there. You might it might be close to where you live. It might be the right pace. It might be all these positive things. But are you feeling like seen? Are you feeling like nurtured? Are you feeling connected? Are you going away with like strong memories and wanting to return, or does it feel like surface level kind of thing? And I don't mean like surface level and like, oh, I just went to this one thing and of course it was surface level, but like, do you feel like you could keep returning and helping like grow and build and be a part of something?
Yeah,
kind of
can
thing.
you actually input?
Yeah,
I suppose.
Yeah,
kind of goes back to like you growing up in a village as well. There wouldn't have been one or two people just being like, this is how it is. Like, drop into this house and this house. And
totally do. And this comes from Māori culture, which is a huge part of my life growing up. And the door's always open. And if you rocked up to someone's house, it could be a friend, an auntie, an uncle, a cousin, whoever, and your house is their house, but you also muck in and get stuff done. If the dishes need to be done, you've got to do them. Leave your shoes at the door, eat whatever you want, but like do the work as well. And
I love that, muck in.
Yeah.
I often think about it, muck around. But
muck in. Yeah. The Māori word is like mahi, which is work, or like do the mahi.
Yeah.
So you got to do the work. So, I mean, that's just maybe like a value of just growing up as well. But I think that's important. Like I remember years ago speaking to Charlie from Run Dem Crew, and he was always like, you've got to put in as much as you want out. Like, and that's always kind of been a mainstay, like, you know, and for some people, it's not the same for everyone. Like some people just turning up every week is what they can do, but they might do it with care and intention. And some people might be like, I want to organise. And I think you could speak to a lot of people in AM.PM. Like I've seen people go off and go from jobs they hated to jobs they like never thought they would have had. And it's not just a direct thing. It might just be because of the people they're around and they feel inspired to do so. It's not like someone just said, hey, here's a job for you. But it's like just that environment kind of breeds that kind of like confidence or that opportunity or whatever you want to call it. Or just people who've like shifted parts of their life to be, oh, I want to explore my creativity, or I want to like learn to speak more confidently, or I just need a new group of friends because my old ones kind of suck or whatever. Like, I don't know. Like, I think that's also one, like, ways, like, community growing isn't just like, hey, we made a cool event. It's like, hey, I made someone feel good today kind of thing, you know? Or I turned up even when it was raining kind of thing. Or I stayed later and I packed up the coffee. It's like that, those tiny little things that if they didn't exist, then it would just fall apart, you know?
For sure. I am not so fired up about this topic anymore, but last year when I released a podcast about brands and the running culture, like we had a chat about it afterwards, which I think was when we first sparked the conversation of a podcast. And that's kind of like what I was alluding to with the protecting in terms of once you create this community in its true sense, or this subculture, I think brands want to just like quickly, like they're like, oh, we want to be a part of that. And that's last year when I was saying like, hey, you either like, you got to show up too if you want to be a part of it, or it's like you can't just like pay your way in, or like think you can just like slap a t-shirt or show up with coffee and you're good.
Yeah, totally, man.
I like haven't thought about this for ages, so I don't have the same like zest and fire about it now. But I think whilst we're on the topic, it still probably exists, but I'm not so cognizant of it. But is that something that you still like have to battle with?
Yes and no. I think we're just very like aware of it because we've had lots of conversations about it. I think maybe some brands know not to like come to us sometimes now, because we've probably said no a handful of times. But it's a respect thing, I think. It's like we put in a lot of energy and time into this, just the same as a brand puts a lot of energy and time to making their shoe the best thing in the world. So we should be met with the same kind of care, and it's not just like a throwaway thing. Like there's a term like in skateboarding, like just like a logo slap or a sticker slap. Like you just quick put the logo on that and see you later, and it's done something. And I think there's a lot of that going around. And like I kind of get it. Like these brands are like, they're rushing around. They're trying to like meet their quotas. They're trying to sell things. They're trying to like feed the beast kind of thing. And it's not about the people that you're dealing with. It's just sometimes their circumstances kind of just suck as well. And they're trying to like make the most of what's been given to them in terms of resources and stuff. And I never want to like blame or like be annoyed at like the people we're dealing with, because they care about it for sure. That sometimes they're just not given, like it is a conflicting thing. Like, and I do see like the crew world as like an artistic movement or an artistic like expression, and the brand world is like business and capitalism, and for as long as these two things has existed, they are in conflict.
Always.
Like the artist side is like the soul, and the business side is the mind, and there's like the strategy. And I was just talking to Willix about this because we were listening to this other video essay which kind of describes this. And yeah, they can go and have conversation together, and they can talk and they can figure things out, but they have to be kind of left alone at some points, and that's tricky. It's
so
really
leaving
hard.
alone, I think, is really important, because they need space to breathe.
They do,
and then to come and meet and then go back again.
I just don't care, like, and I'm only speaking from AM.PM's point of view, and we joke about this in a serious way. Like, I think a lot of people that are attracted to AM.PM are like these quite sweet, sensitive souls. And I don't know why that is, but maybe I know I'm that kind of person, but it's when I meet people who are really invested in the crew, like, I'm like, they're usually quite sensitive. And even as a lot of artists I meet are usually quite sensitive people, or at least quite emotionally aware or in tune. And a brand, just for whatever, no matter where that brand is, or just even the word brand, can be quite alarming and quite hard for these people, because they care so much about who they are and what they do, and the depths of what it is, that when things do feel a bit surface level, or a bit like, we did this thing and now we've ghosted you, or now we've moved on to the next project, like it hurts kind of thing. And I think sometimes it's like a lack of empathy or lack of like consideration from the brand side of things, that you're dealing with people's like passions and cares and interests that they spend every day thinking about, kind of thing. It's not something they just want to like rock up and get paid for and go home, you know?
Completely. I think just even reflecting on my previous like interactions and circumstances with brands, that's probably why it hurt me so much, because I was just like, this is my life. I put so much effort into this every single day. And when you just like get up and go, I'm just like, I care. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I think that's where I'd probably leave it, is just like, and obviously like it's not like artists and runners are all right and have the best way of doing things. Like, yes, you want to work in tandem and learn from each other, but just that care, I think, is like super important. Or like sometimes calling a spade, hey, we want to do one project with you. We just want to like make a bit of noise.
But that has care in it when it's direct and clear.
Totally, yeah, clear. What's the saying, like?
Clear is kind.
Yeah, clear is kind. Yeah. So it's just that, don't beat around and be like, we'll work together for ages and we'll do this and it's going to be this. I'm like, is it? I don't know.
On a more uplifting note, where would you like to see run crew culture go? Or I guess, so for those that can't see, we've got butcher's paper in front of us, and we have a little diagram somewhere.
Yeah.
Here it is. Digital and lived, and it's kind of like in a little orbit atmosphere ecosystem. And last time I saw Ben was at a running event in Melbourne. It was a street mile, and we were talking about like how great it was, how we would like to see more of these style of events, like pretty kind of lightweight in production, very like on the spot, makeshift, but for me, like a very pure energy, which is like what I loved. And AM.PM have hosted a street mile before, and they exist in New York and all around. And for me, locally, to like bolster and I think like kind of excite the running community, I was like, oh, it'd be really cool if there were more of these different style of events. I mean, like if everybody had their own one, it would lift the whole state of running. And then when I said to Ben, like, we'd love to chat about that more, he also talked about like lifting the whole world of running. So this is the next chapter of this podcast that we want to evolve. But yeah, what comes to mind first when I say, where would you like to see running go?
I think just as you're talking about like, just like these kind of more grassroots events or these low lift, high passion kind of events, it's kind of like, just checking in with your reason why. Like, are we doing it for performance, or are we doing it for like nurturing the thing that we're a part of, kind of thing? And I think even myself, like, you have to kind of check yourself and be like, are we doing this to like get visibility, to be like, check out how cool we did this cool thing? Or is it like, this is going to be dope for the people that are like there, and they're people who want to get involved, and it's going to help that photographer shoot something cool, and it's going to give someone like a break from their training to like express themselves running fast? Or is it going to teach someone to like, you know, learn some skills in planning out an event or a design or whatever it is, you know? So I think it's like checking in on those purposes, and also just feeding those like interests. Like, you know, you have coffee with someone, you'll go for a run, or you'll write an idea down, and it's like letting those ideas actually come to life, and not just being like, how can I like gain more like visibility so this brand can do a thing with me, or whatever it is, you know, or how many brands can I get involved? Or so I think it's just like a purpose check, kind of temperature check on where you're at, and doing that with integrity. I do like the idea. I think it's back to this niche thing, like going like, where can you, how far can you go within your world? Like, I think is a big thing. Like, yes, like running is running, and a race is a race, and a hat is a hat, you know, whatever. But like, what are we doing with it? And I think Melbourne is a really special place. Like, I think we were on a long run the other day, and we're like, damn, it is so insanely cool here. Like, you can run uninterrupted for miles.
It's nuts.
It's absolutely like nuts. Like,
uninterrupted.
Cities, like,
I always lose it on the trails here, because I'm like, I'm 5Ks from a city CBD, but I'm on dirt and full tree cover.
Yeah. We are so spoiled. Like, we mingle with professional runners. We have amazing shops that we can go to events at or buy things from. We have different kind of people you can run with every day of the week, uninterrupted, train. We have so much abundance of like what we can do. And it's like now, and yes, we've been nurturing this for a while, like the artistic side of it, like it's all there. So what do we, and I'm always banging on about like legacy and longevity and like sustainability of something. So like, and this is where I kind of go back into like checking yourself to be like, okay, what is the purpose here? Like, we want people to like feel like they can return and give back and so on and so forth. So what is that next thing? Like, what are we excited by? Like, is it a race? And if it's a race, then what does that look like? It's like kind of just going around another corner and being like, okay, yeah, that still works. And the big thing I say to people is, or even to myself, is like, if it feels good, take another step. If it feels good, take another. But if it doesn't, you can always kind of go back. And yeah, that's probably one way to put it, at least.
I like that.
Yeah.
Kind of made me smile because one of my best mates, he always says there's no harm in feeling good. And it's like, if you feel good, pick up the pace, go for it. Or in your instance, take another step.
Yeah. Like, there is so much here we can do. I think it's also like, it's not a competition as well. Like, something we talk about with AM/PM is like this idea of like people, there's always an intimidation factor of turning up to something, whether it's a crew, a club, or an event. Like, you might be like, that's not for me, those photos look really fast, or they don't kind of dress the way that I like to dress, whatever it may be, whatever reason of intimidation you might have. But also, where's I going with this? Like, there's, I fully lost my train of thought.
I was just thinking about, I wonder what makes AM/PM intimidating.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
And there's this idea of like, there's space for everyone to like make stuff, like put on an event, make a t-shirt, have a club, whatever it is. But there is this idea like of like inclusivity and exclusivity. And it's like something we've always said with AM/PM is like, we're for everybody, but we're not for we're for anybody, but we're not for everybody. And
Yes.
It's like, you can come down, whoever you are, come down, like be involved, like try and like come and try it out. But also it might not be for you. The beauty of that is there will likely be somewhere for you now that we have so many options in Melbourne and in the world. And a long time ago that was harder because there wasn't many options around, but now it's like we can say, yeah, come on down, but it doesn't mean it has to fit your vibe. Like you're allowed to say no, and you're also allowed to say, well, that's for them, I'm going to leave that over there and I'm going to hang out in this world, or I don't see anything for me, so I need to start my own thing. So I think there's this idea that we don't need to be as like judgmental or as competitive with our like peers, even though sometimes we just are in a bad mood and we just judge someone or just talk shit or whatever it is, or like go like, oh, that sucks, I want to do it better, or whatever. Like, we all have those moments, but I think ultimately like we want to be like, hey, Melbourne is like the sickest place to run.
Yeah.
And I can go there and I can go there, and they're friendly and they're awesome, and they put on that event, and well, they collab together, and well, they did that thing with that store, and well, those guys hang out by themselves here, and that's their thing. And I think that's kind of when you have a true culture of something. So it's kind of like getting out of our own heads and just like accepting those things, and then just really like focusing on what we care about.
The acceptance is huge, and I think I've noticed that on AM/PM, like outwardly, just being like, this is who we are, and we're actually not going to say we're for everybody now. And I kind of wish like this is what more clubs or crews or groups did as well. It's just like, this is who we are, this is what to expect, and that's us. And then again, it comes back to like being clear is being kind, but it's also helpful. And for me, like just coming back from New York, I think that's what New York does. It's like they have this like sprawling huge city with so many different identities around running, and you're like, okay, I'll just go to here or here or here. And then when you drop in for like a week like I did, you're like, I can just bounce around. And that's like, I don't know, I was also thinking about legacy. It's like, how do we get Melbourne to be that? So if someone else came here, they can kind of feel that, oh yeah, I can just drop into something that feels true to me.
Yeah.
I don't know if that made sense. I went on like 3 tangents there.
Yeah, and I guess be excited by it or welcomed by it kind of thing. Welcomed in the sense that you can see it all happening, and you can like that clearness of being like, oh yeah, that I might leave that one, but I'll go there, and I've been invited to that one because I know so-and-so, a friend of a friend, or whatever it may be, kind of thing. Or when you do have like an event, like you're not being like, oh, those guys made that thing, like I'm not going to that thing. Like you like, oh, that's sick for them. Like I'm going to try and get down. Or like I'll tell with AM.PM, we have like a big Discord channel where a lot of things are organised, and that's probably why sometimes we're more quiet on like social media. We're not like saying every day like, hey, there's this run happening kind of thing. It's all happening kind of behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean like it means we're like telling people like, hey guys, like up there are doing this thing, or hey, we've been sent this invite for this and get down, or hey, this opportunity's come up. And there's like other ways of like nurturing those things so that you'll see like in every campaign and every event there's always someone from AM.PM rocking up and being involved. And I have friends from the outside of running who have been to like running events and like, man, like that crew from AM.PM, like they get around so much. They're so keen to be available and ready and keen to be there. Like they party harder than anyone. They rock up to every event. They're like excited by everything. They're in photos. They're making things. It's like so, like that is so exciting.
I can echo that. This year in Wales, I bumped into a guy and he's like, oh, I know a guy from AM.PM. Go to a juice shop in New York. Oh, I know the boys from AM.PM. Like, no matter where I go, as soon as I say I run, I'm from Melbourne, they're like, oh, I know somebody from AM.PM.
Yeah, and I think that it's super infectious. Like, it's exciting to like have that, and I'm sure like you might hear that from other people from their clubs as well. Like, because I'm just looking at it outwardly from the perspective that I sit from, kind of thing. But having that feedback from other people who are like outside of the running world, and like, man, that your friends or your crew like know how to get around things. And I think that's like, if we can hold on to that for like the nurturing or the upholding of like the culture of running in Melbourne, then I would say we're in a pretty good place.
Definitely.
Yeah.
There's just so many themes that are like keep coming through. It's like nurture, but nurture through like deep interest. It's like if you're really interested in it, follow that, take another step. And I love that. I'll ask one more question on running, and then I want to go back to the photo world briefly. What would you want your legacy to be within running, or what would you want AM.PM's legacy, whatever vehicle you want to choose, solo or community?
I think my own legacy, I've always said to people like, I'd like to be able to run when I'm like 80. You know, I think like I don't want to burn out, or like I want to be healthy and like...
Are you doing your strength work?
Yeah, dude.
Great.
Twice a week in the gym.
You're on track, man.
I always see like when I'm around Prinny Park or something, and you see there's this one woman I've seen there. I see her quite often. She's been there since I started running, and I started running when the crew was born. And so she must have been running well before that. And she is probably there, I'd say, at least 5 or 6 times a week. And she does probably a couple of laps kind of thing. And she's probably, I'm going to say like 65-ish kind of thing, but running usually keeps you young, so she could be older and looks younger. I don't know. But she's kind of an inspiration. I'm like, I want to be someone like that who can get out and run a couple of laps even into my old age.
Love that.
I think it'd
sustainability.
I think it'd be amazing to still do that with your friends.
Yeah.
You know, like I think that would be, and I say friends as in like the crew. So I think, I don't like it when people go like, you know, when they had this like special thing, and it could have been anything. Could have been a cycling club, it could have been a magazine, it could have been whatever. And there's this point where people not so much give up, but they think that they have to stop something because they're at a certain age or it's had a certain amount of time. Like, I just totally don't believe in that at all. Like, why can't you have like a running crew for 50 years? Like, what's wrong with like why do we keep things in this like, oh, it's only for your like these years when you're like, got this going on, like, why do we have to have these boundaries to things? So I think legacy is like people can come and go, and I might not even be the same kind of role or whatever it is, but I would love that to have it, to be able to keep going kind of thing, whatever that morphs into.
Yeah. Longevity. Man, that was beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, now we can go back into into photos and inspiration. I think it's actually kind of like a nice segue. One thing that I admire, at least, well, one thing I enjoy with what you talk about online is like finding inspiration from magazines, finding inspiration from like analog sources, and really kind of just trying to like not get stuck in this like vortex of oversaturated mood boards imagery. How, like, what are you doing now? Like, where do we go with all this saturation of imagery and mood boards?
It's tricky because that pull to spend time in these digital platforms is so strong. So no one is immune, I don't think, to like how
it's so easy.
Yeah.
Like, I just think at the moment I just go straight on the Cosmos, but then I'm just like, damn, I've seen this here, here, and here.
Yeah. So I think it's like where you have to think about it, like where you put your energy is what's going to develop more. So if I'm like spending time like on Instagram and like that's where I'm like feeding things, like getting inspiration or references or ideas, that's where things are going to like come out on the other end when I make something.
Yeah.
And that world is like a mirror, and it's reflecting, it's like a broken mirror that's fractured and reflecting like 1,000 million times over. And it's almost like a small kind of mirror, or like a small box that almost, so you're seeing things over and over and versions of versions of versions. It's like we're in this like postmodernism, or I'd almost say like postmodernism, where we're in this, like the hyper reality we're so unaware of it that it has become like a new reality. Like our online world is so much more real than it has ever before. And we live so much of our kind of lives through it, but it's so much has been reflected back. So if we're spending time there, and I'm talking from like an artistic point of view as a photographer and a filmmaker, if that's where my energy is going, like, of course my work's going to start looking like that because I'm feeding my energy into it. So for me, I'm always like in conflict, or I guess like I'm always in like questioning mode. Like, how do I do things differently? What feels like me? What's true? What do I really want to be putting out into the world? I can't find it there. Like, yes, sometimes I might, oh, that's sick. Like, that was epic. I'm going to save that. Like, of course, because there's things I follow that I'm interested in, like, naturally. But where I really want to be is like putting my energy into like learning about the world through other things. And that could be going to see music, see performances, see arts, read magazines, read books. Not always from the world that I'm part of, but these other kind of curiosities, I guess. And when you spend time and put energy into those things, that's where that's going to come out in your art or in your photos or whatever, I think.
You really can't cheat it.
You can't, yeah.
You have to spend time in that zone,
Totally.
and that process, and that.
We can justify it as much as we want and be like, but I think, yeah, like you can be like, oh, I'm inspired by this, but you're going to feel it, like it's going to be short-lived, I think. Like if you are spending time like pulling references and ideas and mirroring back what you're seeing online, then I think you're going to kind of end up, at least from my perspective or experience, like you'll just feel like kind of shallow and empty by the end of it. Like it's just not going to have that substance that you're really if you're really like wanting that substance kind of thing.
How do you go from a work perspective of people want a certain quality of work for you, and to achieve that, it's like if you were to go through the ideal process of really like spending time researching, reading, diving into something that inspires you to get the mood board, the intel, the story that you want. But so many brands, like people want things like yesterday. They want things so quick.
Yeah.
How do you manage that of like doing the due diligence, doing it slowly, investing time versus like, the pressure and immediacy that...
I think it's like, for me, there's two roads, or there's two vehicles or two modes of transport, and I'm thinking about my brain, how it works, or how I make work. And there's like this long, drawn out timeline, and that's me over many years, my entire life of curiosities and interests and just stuff that you are absorbing and learning about the world and just your perspective, how you see the world. And that's what I would harness always. Like, it's just my innate way of like seeing and doing and being. And then there's like a shorter, quicker version where if someone's like, hey, we want to make a project about like people sweating when they run, and you take all of that years and time, and that doesn't mean like, oh, you have to have a certain amount of years behind you to do something. Like, you've still lived a life. It doesn't matter where you've come from. Like, you still have your perspective on the world. But then I go, okay, well, how do I apply my thinking into the shorter amount of time for this X project or whatever it is? So I just take all of that thinking and go like, how do I like to work? Okay, where do I start? I want to start here. How do I want to get things? Okay, I'm going to go to the library. I'm going to go look under this category. I'm going to pull out some imagery here. Who am I interested in at the moment? Oh, I read this book from this person. Okay, I'm going to go from there. And you start kind of pulling this world in, and just like this kind of spider web or this, and then you might whittle it down, and be like, just kind of edit it right down to like the core of what it is. So, and I think over time you might get faster at that, or more confident with it, or whatever. And there's not really like a wrong or right way, because it's kind of what I was saying before, like, you're using the best of who you are and the resources you have at that current time. Mm-hmm. Like in 10 years from now, I might have a totally different way of using my thinking and resources kind of thing. I might have more or less resources. I might live in a different place. I might have a different outlook on life kind of thing. Because I think if you're open to that, then just naturally like who you are is going to come out in the work kind of thing. Rather than me being like, here's my phone, I can grab like, oh, this photographer does it that way, and then you're just kind of replicating something that already exists, and you're not really putting yourself into it kind of thing. Yeah, I think that's a bit of a long-winded way of like
I like it.
Explaining it.
Within that, and I guess another thing that you've talked about is like maintaining some level of mystery, because we have this accessibility to so many photographers, so many pieces of work, but now also people being like, I shot at this shutter speed, I did this, and this, and it's all there. Can you tell me more about, maintaining mystery? Yeah. And why it's not important, why it is important?
I'm going to give that same analogy of like the crew and club. Yeah. So like how the crew was like looking at the world, like absorbing from all these other interests, and the club was starting from running. I kind of see the same with like, say, filmmaking and making works of photographer. Like, are you looking at it from like, oh, here's the camera and this is what it does, or here's my world and then I'm channeling that through a camera kind of thing? And for me, like, it's like that specialness, like all the things that I'm interested in the world are like uniquely what I find special and I'm attracted to and get sparked by. I don't need to tell everyone what those things are. Like, they're for me and they'll come out in the work. And somewhere along the line, a certain amount of people will resonate with those or feel like that's interesting. Like, if I was to explain to people like every little kind of thing that I found special, or what I looked at and how I saw things and why I made it, it kind of like like if I went to see like a show at a gallery, and before I got in, I kind of knew everything about the work, and I went in and I was like, yeah, cool. But if I went in and with kind of, and it just spoke to me, I'm like, wow, what is this? Like, and it could be how I felt that day. I'm like, oh my gosh, like that photo, like did that to me. And like that's why you make work, is you want people to like resonate with you. You don't want to like have to explain every which way it was made and why, because that's maybe not the point of it, I think.
You lose the magic of it. But I also think on a personal level, and tell me if this is wrong or right, but you lose the magic for yourself, right?
You do.
Particularly when you talk about it from like channeling your world rather than being like, this is what the camera does. And like, my whole world has gone into this. So it's not even like a arrogant thing. It's like, I need to protect me for my sustainability.
Totally, yeah. You've nailed it there, dude. Like, you are kind of protecting things. And I'm all about like sharing process. Like, growing up, like learning, like entering the world of commercial photography, like I didn't know anything how to run that side of things, and I learnt the long, slow, hard way. So I'm all about like sharing process with people, particularly if you're an emerging photographer or filmmaker and you're like, how the hell do I do this kind of thing? I think that's super valid and important. And I also don't mind sharing like why I do things. Like I think that there's enough in keeping that mystery there of saying like, this is why I like to make work and this is what I'm interested in. But I don't need to show like all of the details and all of the like little bits and pieces of like of that world, because it's kind of for me. And it's also like, I think often artists are like very misunderstood. They quickly misunderstood. Like you're like, I'm like really, like I was saying to someone, I went to the ballet the other week and it was sick, and it was like this life-changing thing, and I'm like super inspired, and people are like, what? Like you went to the ballet? What? Like, and you're like, I don't even know how to talk to you about this, like, because like, and you meet people who are like fully on your level and you're like talk to them, but for a lot of people like, why do you do that? Like that doesn't make sense. And you're like, classic, like how do I explain this? And you're like, I don't want to explain it. Like, I just want to be who I am, and that's part of it too.
I get that so much.
Yeah.
This is what I've been working on with my psych. I'm just like, I hate justifying stuff.
Yeah.
Like, just let me be me.
Yeah.
Let me do my thing and put it out there, and I just want to try.
Yeah.
It's like purely a sense of trying.
Yeah, and those are those qualities that make your work, and your artistic flair is those things that are often misunderstood by people. And so it's a very vulnerable, sensitive thing to put those things out on show. And sometimes you do put them out, and they come through in the work, but having to explain those things is quite tiring and taxing, I think, at least for myself. So you're kind of protecting your energy a bit to be like, well, I'm putting this out, especially because a lot of where we put things now is online first. And that's a whole mess of a world where you're like, well, I do need some sort of like validation or sense of like, hey, do people like what I'm doing kind of thing. So if I put all of that out there, that is like a whole mess of anxiety to enter into. So you kind of want to keep that to myself so I can nurture like who I am as an artist. Because if I like put it all out there, then I'm kind of like burning myself out. And like, I think artists kind of need that rest, not to like disappear from it, but just so they can protect their ideas and what they want to kind of put out into the world,
Do you have any tips for either how to create space to rest or ways that artists can rest? And I'm particularly asking for myself.
Gosh, I think I'm probably still working on it, to be honest. Like, I think it's such a challenge because I'm like really, like I'm deeply passionate about what I do, and that's not being like loud and screaming on top of a mountain. It's like an internal like passion. So it's very hard to like turn that off or step away from it, because you're like, you might just see something in the street and
100%.
then you're on a tangent and you're thinking and you're writing and you've got stuff going on. I think it's like a felt thing when you like, at least for me, like an awareness of like I need a certain amount of rest, and that rest can be different for anybody. But for me, it's like a weekend away from like any kind of like world that I'm involved in with, say, running or whatever. It might just be like I'm cleaning the house, I'm going to the movies, and I'm like going to have a sauna. Like it could just be really simple pleasures in life kind of thing. And it's also like learning, like with friends and partners and whoever, like learning to be like, do I need to like talk about this today? Do I need to like talk about what's going on in my head? I can just like leave it alone for a bit, and maybe I just need to write some notes if it's really pressing, and then leave that. And I think just getting away from the weeds of like what you do and out of your normal routine is probably a good like helps like shift some energy kind of thing.
Switch up.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I like that. Something just popped into my head. One thing that I've been asked a lot and also noticed a lot now is that print is coming back pretty hard and hot.
Yeah.
You've been doing print and you've had a book, made plenty of books through Good Sport for a long time. What are your thoughts on this like resurgence of print?
Okay. love it, but also cautious too, because of all of what we've talked about before, like the care and consideration and the purpose of why. Like you're going to see a lot of trashy stuff because people go, oh, that's what we need to do. Let's make that because that's what the trend is at the moment. And that's going to be true for no matter what medium we're working in. It's often like the more superficial, like easier to understand surface level stuff that's probably going to gain more noise and attraction because it's like for the mass culture of things it's easier to understand and get around. So for me that's always challenging because I always like more depth and I like things that are a bit more weird and harder, takes a bit more time to develop and understand and things like that. So I always get a bit, I'm like, oh shit, this could be a bit hard because like it's going to get really popular and I don't like things that are just like flashy and quick and blah, blah, blah kind of thing. But I'm also like, if people are like holding something and learning and being inspired by that rather than like
the
screen.
Yeah.
Like maybe they learn about it through the screen, but the real like essence of it is they've got to hold something and pick something up and kind of thing. So I just really hope like when people are like, oh, let's do this, when they do that, are they doing it with like purpose and intention? And something we've always said is Good Sport, from the magazine and now into the studio, is like finding the right medium for the right idea. And sometimes that is print, but sometimes that is an article online, and sometimes that is an event, or sometimes that is just like, it could be a range of different things. So I think it's like learning to pause and like it's the same thing. Like I want like longevity. Like I want like the book we did, the Visions one, like I'd never made a hardcover book and I really want that to like sit with people for years, so you can return to it and pick it up and it still feels like classic and good and there's something new in it and you can return to it. I don't want something that...
Pick up old things. I told you we'd come back around.
Pick up old things. Yeah, dude. Like some things, yes, have a short lifespan. That's fine. And I make things with short lifespans too. But at least like I still want to be like, keep this, you know, like learn from it, like return to it. Even if it, I think that's when we make things, I think just keeping, that's, I mean, it's physical. Like you've put it out into the world, like put the care into it, you know.
Definitely.
That's kind of where I see it.
So for me, I like drifted off thinking about running there, and it's like ultimately, there's things that I disagree with or potentially like frustrate me, but I'm like, at the end of the day, people are running because of that. I hope they then find like their expression of running. And it's same, it's like, well, at the end of the day, okay, there's more print, but maybe now people are like spending less time on their phone. So like the greater good is there.
Yeah.
I hopefully people sit with it.
I think we're in this reality of like the online world of things is so huge and such a massive part of what we're connected to that we can't just think of like, oh, print is this thing by itself from what it used to be like 30 plus years ago, where everything you found was in like a magazine or a book or something like that. So I think it would be foolish for me to be like, oh, like it should be like this, it should be this one way, but like it has to be kind of integrated into like what we do online, because that's just naturally how things are discovered or launched or talked about.
I just love the point on like find the right medium. I think that's a really like great thing for people to think about. It's like match it accordingly, and I think also like energetically then how that transmits to people is like there's more like truth, or it may resonate better.
Yeah. And honestly, like maybe it is print, and maybe it is print at the time that it is trending as well. Like that's not a wrong and right thing.
Yeah.
Like that might be the right medium, but when you do that medium, like, are you going, okay, well, what is the design? What is the content? What is who's involved in it? And what does it look and feel like? So then you kind of, it's like going down into those layers, not just being like, okay, slap a logo, put a nice photo in, press print and give it out kind of thing. It's like thinking about it that way as well. With everything. It's like, okay, we're doing a race, but who's involved? Why are we doing it? Where is it? Da-da-da. Like, ask the questions, and then I think it reveals like what you're really trying to do. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm going to steal one of your questions.
Yeah.
So the other day, Good Sport Studio put out a survey of like what you want to see more of in your sport. I think I answered like I want to see more behind the scenes stories of the athletes, kind of more of their like process, or just like more of their backgrounds in their life. So that's what I want to read about. I'm like, you can see the data, you can see their times, like you can see so much, but I'm like, what is it in someone's home? Like, what is it like on their walk to the gym, whatever it may be. What do you want to see more of? Like, if you filled that out, like, what are you saying?
Gosh, I think for me personally, I actually want to see people champion sports that are not trendy at the moment. And this is probably, I'm talking to myself at the moment. Like, I'm very like involved in running, but I have such an interest in like the inner workings of how other sports present themselves and the culture of them. So like photographically, I want to make work around another sport and just like maybe champion the underdogs a little bit, like the sports that don't get the cool, trendy, like interests that other things do. I think that's kind of maybe just a byproduct of like my life a little bit. I think the sport that I'm involved in a lot, obviously running, gosh, like I do want to see more like art in sport, in running. Like,
couldn't agree more.
Yeah. And I think it's happening for sure. Like some beautiful things are being made, but I think there's more to be like said and done, maybe. Yeah. I think that's what I want to see.
Epic. I love that. That was, for me, when people ask me like, what was I inspired by in New York recently? And I was like, I was actually inspired by the space that existed for art to come into running. I was like, it was so big, it was so bright, everybody was activating so loud, but I'm like, where's the art around our sport? And I think that's what I like personally want to put my time into and my vehicle's poetry and painting at the moment. I'm like, yeah, is it, could there be sculptures, like whatever the medium is? But yeah, that's what I also am curious. I want to see more of.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's, going back to that earlier thing, like there is this trap in running of becoming like linear and routine and rigid because of the physicality of it. Is that you're not running like left to right and up and down like how other, like, and I think it's really like people talk a lot about when they run that clear-minded, like ideas come. I'm like, for me, that I feel like I used to say that earlier on in my journey of running. I'd be like, it was such a new feeling and all this new stuff's probably happening in my brain and body that naturally like things are sparking. But I often don't find now the ideas are coming from running at all. Or when I go for a run, like I'm usually thinking of running as like a skill that I'm trying to hone in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, form, training, like it is a bit more, it is rigid and planned and routined and scheduled and all the rest of it, because working with a coach and having goals and stuff like that, like is naturally is that. So that doesn't really serve my artistic brain as it used to when in the early days of crew running, where we would meet in the city and we would run with music, and we would, if you looked at our like Strava maps, they were like all over the place. We were like alleyways and through buildings, and it was super dynamic. And that kind of brought, I guess, was the birth of like the essence of what AM/PM and who I am as a runner now is. But when you're developing, like, oh, maybe I can go a bit faster, and maybe I can learn about nutrition, and maybe I can learn about having a coach, and that's almost become a little bit more like, like planned and rigid. So if I've lost some of the, well, not lost, but I don't have that kind of creative learning in running, I have to, I get it elsewhere. So yeah, I think that's kind of like where things are at as well. Yeah, like finding it's hard to find it in running, I think.
Yeah.
I think we can try and force it, but I think it has to come elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, bring the outside world in. My final question for you is, what was your 1%er today? A small, unexpected thing that made you smile.
Okay, I was riding my bike from Brunswick to Abbotsford to the studio, and I just love riding around the Yarra. Like I just, particularly past like Dites Falls into like the Abbotsford
Are you on
area.
that little footpath bit?
Yeah.
So good.
Like,
yeah.
I just always get such a joy no matter the weather. And at the moment, it's like churning water because of the storms and the rain. And I just saw this bird on a rock sitting there, and I was like, that's sick. I just was stoked. Like, you know, when you just catch a glimpse out of your eye and then you just, it's almost like a double take. It particularly happens when you're riding a bike, I think, because you get to see, you can pause and look back. And that was just like a nice moment, I think.
So sweet.
Yeah.
So sweet. My 1%er today was probably seeing Joe walk into the cafe. He came to New York with me. I haven't seen him for a couple of weeks. Noticed he had a fresh haircut, but it was just good to see him. I was like, feels like a lifetime since I've seen him. So there we go. Well, everybody, this is Ben Clement. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today and just opening up, sharing a little bit of your world, dissolving a little bit of mystery maybe. Thank you.
As you can see, I'm probably like, the passion like comes out kind of thing. I think sometimes like online and in life, it like I'm probably a bit more subdued sometimes and just like little drops here and there of things, but the passion is definitely real. So it's I think when I get
boiling inside,
it's like trying to like come out as much, and I'm like, whoa, there's heaps there. So yeah.
Where can people find your magazine? How can people work with Good Sport? Or if somebody really, really wanted to run with you, how do they do it?
It's going to be so annoying because I'm going to have to say it online.
Yeah.
But they can honestly a DM, but instead of a DM, send me a voice memo. It's way I'll respond better. Like, I find it hard to sometimes like write back sometimes. So if it's on Good Sport magazine, Good Sport Studio, find my name easy enough on Instagram, Substack, email. But send a voice memo. That's when I'll know you really want to do something.
There we go. That is the hot tip right there.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. There's another episode done and dusted. Thank you so much for your time, your attention, for being here. Go and check out Ben's work. And I will see you again next week. Ciao.
Ciao.